Welcome to the Scalability Code, the podcast that helps you get out of the shit show and start growing your business. A few times each month, you'll hear stories and commentary from visionary entrepreneurs, EOS implementers, and fractional COOs about how they've taken businesses to level 10. And now, for your host, Matt Haney.
Welcome to the Scalability Code. I'm your host, Matt Haney, here with a friend of mine, former client, and one of my favorite bald humans, Bob Woolsey. Bob, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to join us and talk about your life and your experience and how you know me and all this stuff. So I always like to start out with a little bit of backstory about you and how we found each other, what your history is, and don't cut out any of the good stuff because I know all the details. I'm going to make you bring them up if you leave it out. So take it away.
Thanks for having me on, Matt. So after being challenged to look at EOS in the book Traction probably 7 or 8 years ago, finally, after seeing the impact it had had on some friends of ours in the jewelry business, decided to, instead of just read the book, inquire about hiring an implementer, which we did. Harlan Geiser, shout out.
Shout out, Harlan.
Bloomington Normal did a great job of implementing EOS, and as many, I would say, small family businesses find as they start to work on the accountability chart, we definitely were struggling to fill the integrator seat. Me as the visionary of our family jewelry business for, 20 plus years, worked with my mom, not really in any place had a COO or an integrator or a VP or any of that type of a thing. And really, as we got working through the focus day, the vision building days, and then into the quarterly path, we found that we really needed someone in that integrator seat to assist us in making sure that we were getting our rocks done, running the level 10s the right way, operating the business as EOS would challenge us to do. And Harlan somehow suggested that we reach
All
out
the
to you.
stars just aligned, and it was a perfect alignment.
It was a great alignment, and Matt, what you brought to us was something that probably from a larger company perspective, I'm not going to say corporate, just an overall bigger enterprise view of what that integrator / COO type person did, held me accountable, which as the visionary / owner / kid that grew up in the business / made a lot of bad decisions without any accountability. And so very different than consultants I've worked with in the past because it was way more in the EOS track. And so
well, let's go back.
Progress.
I want to go back to you glossed over it, and I knew you would. That's why I said I want to hold you accountable to this. I want to go back to how you got to where you're sitting today and what, a little backstory on Jones Brothers, the generational stuff. So take me back, tell me a story that you've told 100 times, but I do think it's very relevant to why you're special.
Okay. So our family business started in the funeral home world, which is actually very similar to the jewelry store world. Major milestones, some happier than others, obviously. And my dad and uncle bought my grandpa out. And I found out at the point that they purchased the family business at the price my grandpa wanted it to be purchased for, he felt underpaid. So at that point, they effectively were written out of the will, which we found out like 30, 40 years later when my grandpa passed. And I didn't realize just how messy the family business was. My dad and uncle bought Jones Brothers from the Jones Brothers who started it in 1939. They bought it in 1978. My uncle and father could not get along, so my uncle took the funeral homes, my dad took the jewelry stores, and they effectively ran two separate family businesses. Holidays were weird. My mom would always say that she forced them to not talk about work at family gatherings, which meant there wasn't a lot to talk about. Actually, my father kind of fell into a depression based on some decisions that he made that a lot of people in the jewelry business were making by, it basically came down to mail fraud. Tiffany got in trouble for it. A lot of stores did it. And he was facing felony charges, possibly jail time, and the depression took him. So he took his life when I was 16. So I was a junior in high school. My mom Did not know the address of the store, didn't know the phone number, took over the store a week after my dad passed, and that was 1989, 1990. And when I graduated college, thinking I was going to be a high school football coach and teacher, and my ADD would not allow me to be locked in a room the rest of my life, my mom said, either you go to gemology school and come back, or I'm selling the company, to which I went to gemology school, came back. She and I ran the company from 96 until she retired in 2018. And we've always been a part of a peer group of jewelers. Plexus is what it's called now. And that's where I was introduced to EOS. So there is quite a backstory.
Okay, hold
And,
on. You're not going to gloss over the part that you worked with your mother in a family business that her husband started, your dad. How long were you and your mom working together? Well, with 2018
like
to 96.
full time, 22 years.
That's amazing, Bob.
Part time more than that. And it was when I first walked in, she didn't want to have anything to do with it, so she just allowed me to do whatever I wanted, which those decisions that I made allowed our CPA to tell us it's time to close the business. You're running out of money. My mom said, we are not quitters. So we literally walked out of lunch and started looking for property because my mom's relentless. And instead of shutting down the business, we bought an acre of land, built a 10,000 square foot strip center, and business became a lot better. After that, I was actually able to be the owner of the real estate, which was has been a cool path for me and my family. And yeah, working with my mom initially was easy because she didn't really have anything to do with it. When I made bad decisions, she came back. We worked together fairly well, but we have the same exact Colby for those of you out there.
Wow.
2394.
Unbelievable.
I think she might be a 3294 or something like that.
Oh
And,
my God, and then wait, there's another generation. Just wait. There's one more generation of Woolseys in the business.
yes. So I will get back to you because you're pushing me forward. The one thing that I learned, and I've learned it recently, and I go back to about 2016 when we started talking about the succession of my mom selling me the business. There is an element of the generation selling the business to the next generation that those last 2 years, they decide to really get involved more and hold on tighter. And I didn't realize that was a thing until a meeting about a month ago. And a friend of mine, Michael, their store's just starting down the EOS path, shared that that's a very normal generational thing. So the last 2 years,
your
of my mom
identity's in
working
this
forward-
store. Everyone's identity is involved in this. Like it's so easy for me, and I've seen this a couple times, and obviously with you guys and others, it's like you can't take away my identity. I'm just going to hold on to it a little more, and I'm going to remind you that I'm still the parent and you're still the child. It's tough, man. It's tough. And I don't have multi-generational business. I've seen it with my mother-in-law, whose family was 3 generations in the linen business pre-war, and they had the same things. But I think I'll give a little cat out of the bag, is that one of the things I love about you is you've committed part of your time to go out and help people, educate them around these multi-generational business challenges that are happening, and bringing the light the absolutely obvious things that people can't see when they're so close to it.
100%. Yeah. And what I have found with EOS, my son, Bennett, my oldest, came into the business about 3 years ago, and we were already operating on EOS or moving in that direction. When things moved to where he became, effectively the leader in the service side of our business, he started sitting on the leadership team. And that really made a huge impact because it was a structured way to bring someone in the next generation into a leadership position, that the guardrails, the
Yep.
structure, the process is there. And, as EOS always discusses, vision, 10,000 foot view, get it down to the ground level, traction equals healthy. And I always say that it's not just a healthy company, it's healthy employees, healthy families, healthy life outside. And really, when you're bringing on a next generation, that succession goes so much better if there's a structure in place.
Absolutely.
And so fast forward to working with Harlan, and I'm like, Harlan, I really like EOS and I think I could be good at it. And he goes, Not everybody can, but he goes,
Yeah.
Bob, you would be a great EOS implementer because of your story, your history, and just the fact that you can have hard conversations, which Matt, you led the way on that by having hard conversations with us. And that's really what allows a company operating on EOS or any business to succeed is their willingness to have the hard conversation.
I
And
want to jump
so,
in for a second because I think I want to make sure I set this timeline of events out. I'm not necessarily the timeline, but the cadence. Bob runs multi-generational business in the jewelry space, and then moves forward and finds EOS, and then finds me, and we do fractional integrator work, and we love it. And then Bob says, "Oh my gosh, I really want to be in EOS more." Bob turns part-time EOS implementer. Now gone from the best of stories and didn't know EOS to fully committed into it. And from what I remember you telling me, and you and I have caught up a couple times since I stopped working with you, but what I remember is you telling me that it's given you a whole nother dimension, another sense, another purpose, another thing to draw your North Star to. So you've got a couple clients you're working with on the implementer side, or what does it look like? What's that process been like over the last year? Or it's been a year, right?
it's actually been 2 years.
2 years.
And it was
Oh my
our,
gosh.
our, our spring peer group of jewelers meeting 2 years ago that we always set kind of big, hairy, audacious goals. And
Yeah.
I told the group, I said, I think I'm going to become an EOS implementer, to which they said, you'd be great. By the next meeting, you better be one. And so the next meeting in the fall, I've gone through boot camp. I was one. And one of the people in our groups caught me at a weak moment and said, will you fly out to our community? And I said, I would never be an EOS implementer for anyone except companies in Peoria because I have another business. And
Exactly.
she was a very good motivational force to be my first client. So I have a client that's actually out in Colorado that I work with.
And are they in the jewelry business?
They are.
Do
Yeah.
they have
And so
multi-generational? Is it multi-generational?
they do. Yes.
See, I'm telling you, you've got your niche. You are a
Well,
multi-generational EOS implementer in the jewelry space.
my niche, I would say outside of jewelry, because I do not want to travel anymore, is to work with multi-generational family businesses. And I always say that they're either the type that the blood is spilling or the blood's about to spill. Not saying the clients I work with, that's the case, but the messier the family, the better. And what I found is every family business is messy.
Yeah,
Every
absolutely.
family business has challenges that exist. And really, every business is a family business. I mean, Anheuser-Busch, family business.
Sure.
Coors, family business, even though they're publicly traded. So I have found great joy in working with and assisting family businesses. I have currently 3 clients that I'm serving, and then I'm getting ready to I'm actually starting down the path with a not-for-profit. So my model is, 3 to 4 actual, for-profit businesses, and I always want to have a not-for-profit because what I found is when you get the VTO put together for a not-for-profit, the board meetings and just the cadence of moving the organization forward is so wonderful.
It's
And a
awesome.
not-for-profit that I was on the board that was the first not-for-profit I worked with, the first board meeting that we shared the data and the VTO and everything in 90IO. The board was like, well, that's awesome. Because so much of being on a not-for-profit board is like, they can present financials, they can present their vision and all that. And it's just so
Right, but
kind of
what are the
messy.
issues we're trying to solve here? Like, what do we need to do to get us to the next step, and how do we leverage this group of people to help us get there?
Yeah, and really, like the board of directors is a board of directors, and the executive director is running an organization / business.
Yep.
And if they can get on that EOS cadence, it's amazing how things can move forward. So yeah, my second not-for-profit I've started with, and we have our vision building days coming up in May. Super excited. It's Big Brothers Big Sisters, which
Oh yeah, that's a
um,
national organization. That's awesome.
yeah,
How many
it's
locations? How many organizations do they have around the country? Any idea?
I have no idea, but
I have
Big
no
Brothers
idea
Big
either.
Sisters, the one I'm working with is just the Heart of Illinois one,
Sure.
which I was on their board, and I was a big brother, which was a life-changing experience. I challenge everybody, if you want to be a part of the solution, become a mentor, take care of one kid, which evolves into taking care of one family, which can really change one community in a way that you may never realize. And it does more for the mentor a lot of times and their family than it does for the mentee. So shout out to Big Brother.
You are listening to the Scalability Code. I'm your host, Matt Haney, founder of Sinclair Ventures, and we help visionary entrepreneurs like you get out of the shit show and focus on growing your business. We offer fractional COO and leadership coaching services that free up that brain of yours to focus on what's next. Learn more about us at sinclairventures.com. Now back to it. Okay, now the fun, hard questions. And you and I have managed people our whole career. I want to know, and you think about this because it's a tricky answer, and you can reserve the right to change your answer. But what's the hardest thing in your mind about managing people?
The hardest thing about managing people, no different than raising children, are every human being is perfectly imperfect, and every human being comes to their place of work with a wiring that started at birth. And so the more people, the more wirings, the more complicated and complex the system. And which is why I love, structure first in the EOS model, because everybody who has different internal wiring tends to function better if there's a structure in place that they can all see and understand how they fit in it, no matter how they're wired. The other piece that I will say is core values is something that a lot of companies talk about, but rarely, unless they're working within the EOS structure, utilize it for hiring, firing, coaching, building that culture. And so that is the piece where right person, right seat is huge when it comes to, if it's just not a core values fit, then the individual is not enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
And through the interview process, you can really tell if they are. And instead of trying to convince yourself that this is the, right seat, they definitely are the best person I've ever seen in this position. But there's just something about them. It's like, yeah, well, they're not the right person because they're not a core values fit. So I will say the biggest challenge when it comes to managing people is that people are just all different. And if they can all be put into one structure, one system with one set of core values, it makes things run so much smoother.
Absolutely. And I see that often, which you said something that I want to kind of jump back on, that, you said it a couple different ways, and I'm going to repeat what I heard, which is, using EOS or a structured system allows for people to see their place and go to a point or a location or something that says, here's where I should be. Here's my place. Right. And what I find that EOS brings me and the people that I work with is the opportunity to have the conversation to ensure that, Bob, you are in the right seat, you are doing the right things. We're going to talk about what needs, and you have a home, you have a purpose, you have a place, not just swirling around and figuring it out. And you mentioned that in your nonprofit work, working with the board, that they can have, visibility and understanding of what priorities are. And the accountability chart that we use so often helps people see, a visual representation of what their day-to-day responsibilities are and the expectations that are for them. And I always find that these tools help us point back towards a central hub, if you will. So I love that.
The other thing that I just need to put in here is communication.
Oh yeah.
Is one of the biggest challenges that we all have. And when you have, and I just had a meeting yesterday about it, that when the accountability chart is explained to someone who's having back channel communication with people that they shouldn't, which is more gossip and not productive conversation, it was a very easy conversation to pull out the accountability chart and say, this is where you function. Now, I'm not saying that this person's your boss and that's why you have to do this structured way. It's more,
right.
No, we have a leadership team, level 10, every week, that if you have a concern about what's going on, talk to the person that is in charge of the box that you're under, and they will bring it to the leadership team, and it gives it a real clear path to where the communication should occur. And when you do that, it just eliminates a lot of that back channel stuff that is like, oh, this isn't productive communication.
My favorite thing to say is, I always say, Bob, that sounds like an issue for the issues list. I think that topic you're talking about right now should go to the issues list. I'm going to take it. I'm going to go back to the issues list. I'm going to add it on there, and then we're going to come back to you with our thoughts and concerns. And it's for me, it's a great way to diffuse some of that chatter behind the scenes. Is I think we should
Takes
add
the
that to the issues
emotion out of
list.
it.
I think we should add it. I think it should get added there. Add it up. Okay, this is a loaded question off the cuff here, but what do you're taking in your implementer business to the next step? Like, what does success look like for you there? I mean, you obviously are incredibly successful in a multi-generational business, which is awesome, and you've taken this new journey. But what does success look like?
Success looks like, to me, is taking whatever family businesses that I have the pleasure of working with and the one not for profit at a time, to get them within 24 to 48 months able to self implement. And, with me being kind of possibly leading their annual or,
Hmm.
touching base here and there, and really getting them to the point where they have the right people in the right seats. They have an integrator that's effectively directing the company. The visionary has the freedom that they need to do what they do. And at the end of the day, they're operating within the EOS model, the processes, the structure. And there's this sense of peace and this sense of balance and this sense of, if I went to the visionary's spouse and said, how is said visionary doing compared to 3 years ago? And they were like, you know what? Our relationship's better, family's better. There's just a certain sense of balance and peace. That would be success to me. So it's not the number of
Sessions
companies
or
I'm
this or that?
implementing.
Yeah,
It's not financial. It's more of a ministry of sorts that
yeah. It's
with
quality, not
what
quantity. Yeah,
yeah, and with what I went through growing up, that sucks.
yeah.
Like losing a family member because of business and stuff relating to business is so stupid. But family businesses kill people. I hate
They
to
do.
say it, but it's
They
like
do.
they really do. And I remember a mentor of mine, I said that to him as we were walking out of a meeting, my wife and I, and he's like, I'm going to remember that because that's powerful. And I said, it's because it's true. And there's so many families, like there's family I know in town that won't even go to each other's, like their brothers, and they won't even go to each other's families' funerals or
Oh,
weddings. And it's like,
yeah.
it's just a freaking business.
It is. It is. And there's enough opportunity for all of us if we're doing it right, doing it well. One other question, as you jump into these multi-generational family businesses, are you using your, experience and demeanor and to like develop relationships with what I don't know what they call it, but in your generation it'd be fourth gen, right? Your son's generation. Are you using your experience to go talk to these next generation and say, hey, I've been there, I am here, you know, here's some ways you communicate perhaps, or here's like what's your relationship in these multi-generational? Are you just kind of aligned? Obviously your leadership team could have three generations on it, I'm guessing, in some of these different businesses. Where do you really focus in, or is there a sweet spot for you where you're most comfortable, advising those folks?
Well, I consider myself to still be young.
Yes, very
So
much.
I always like to relate to the generation coming in and letting them know that, I did this, 30 years ago. And
Yeah.
the same things are true. We come in thinking we know everything. And, I actually just had a conversation with my son before coming in here on this, and a gentleman that works with us who came into his family business and now he's in his 60s working in our family business.
Hmm.
And his guidance to, my son was basically just remember, the eyes are always on you, and do as best as you can to not give anybody justification for saying you are treated differently and you get to act differently because you are in the family.
Yeah, and it's you mentioned earlier about your football interests. Oh, that's the coach's kid. Yeah, well, most coaches' kids are ridden harder than any other kid on the team because there is that expectation that because you're going to get preferential treatment because you're the coach's kid or the owner's child. But it's tough, man. I mean, having been in your business for a while and seen the optics, it happens, and I'm sure it's the same in every business, which is you're looked at, unfortunately, as the next person in line, and therefore the expectations for you amongst everyone is challenging. Man, it's challenging. Okay, one more question. You work a lot because I know you. What do you do for fun? I know you like to travel. What else? Tell me. Come on, give it to us. What keeps you sane-ish?
I would say what keeps me sane is working out, spending time with my family. We love to ski. Obviously, Peoria isn't the most mountainous region, so we like to go out west. I do enjoy golfing. I like the competitive side to it. I don't take myself too seriously on the golf course. I do work with an implement for a company of a guy that I golf with quite a bit, so it's fun to be an implementer and also, have that personal relationship. I love to mow. Like the grass is starting to get green, and there's something about
Yes, you guys are getting the good weather
the
coming up.
the ADHD instant gratification of actually mowing, and in 30 minutes
So what is
everything
it? You
just
you put
smelling
the
better and
headphones
looking good.
in, you go mow, or you just do it like you just get what do you ride in a mower? Tell us the mowing setup. What's the story?
No, at my house I push mow, and actually at the store we mow the grass out here, and I love even though it doesn't look like there's a lot of grass when it's a 10,000 square foot center on an acre. It's those long passes are really nice, and it's just kind of fun.
And
And
it's
I,
that
I
visual
remember,
success.
yeah, I remember being on spring break, and we were staying with a friend of ours' families in Golden, and one of the Coors sons was actually out mowing his own yard, and I thought that
Love
was
it.
super cool.
That's awesome. So do you listen to headphones? I mean, are you listening to music? Or are you just zoned out, just following the stripes?
I listen to music, and my
What's the
playlist
music?
is
What are we listening to? What was
rather.
on the playlist the last time you cut the grass? Come on.
My playlist will include country, Jimmy
Okay.
Buffett,
Yes.
like Led Zeppelin, Greatest Showman, Pink.
Love it. Oh, very
There,
diverse.
there's metal. There's Juice World. I think he's one of the
Okay.
greatest. Sad that he died too young. Extremely talented. I don't know if you'd call him R&B or rap. As I find music that I like, Shabuzi's a good one.
Very catchy.
There's just a lot of like I am. There's not a I don't. There's not a genre of music that's not on there. Probably like the hard thrashing metal ska type
Yeah, it's too
stuff.
much. Yeah. Do you
Doesn't
listen to
work.
Spotify, Apple Music? What's your thing?
No, I just have my own playlist
Oh, you
that
create your own. I
I
love it.
add I
I love
add
it.
to, and it's somewhat interesting to
I love
some,
it.
but
I love
others
it.
maybe more.
I have to tell you a quick funny story before we hop off. But this morning I was taking my daughter to school. She's 9, and Son of a Sailor came on because I love Jimmy as well. And I was telling her about the song and the story of the song and that he passed away of skin cancer and melanoma, that because I just got something taken off of my daughter. Just all this opportunity to teach. And she said, "Dad, is his name really Jimmy Buffet?" And I said, "It's actually not Jimmy Buffet. It's actually Jimmy Buffett." She's like, "Are you sure? That looks like buffet. You know, like buffet at the hotel where you go to." I was like, "No, sweetie, Jimmy Buffett." And so I laughed. I was like, "Jimmy Buffett." She's funny.
Julia, who's our
Yeah,
financial person here at Jones Brothers, calls him the dude. She
he
goes,
is the
"Is
dude.
that the dude?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he was the dude."
He was the dude. He was absolutely the dude. Well, hey, I can't thank you enough for your time. It's always great to see you, and I really enjoy the time we get to spend together. And as I always say, I want to do it more. I want to see you more, and I love chatting with you. You always bring such good energy. So, thank you for joining
So
us.
I have two quick things for you. Number
Let's go.
one, what are you grateful for today, Matt? Because that's
Oh
how I
my
start
gosh,
every meeting.
I have to tell you, I have been building a house for the last 2 years, and I moved in yesterday. And I am absolutely giddy. I feel so incredibly grateful and fortunate and blessed to start have the ability to do this, but also to just like I have like closure on this project. And you know me, so I'm like tinkering with shit and I'm just like trying to figure it out. But someone called me and they're like, "How was moving? I'm sure it was so stressful. Are you?" And I'm like, I couldn't be happier. Like, I am so grateful for this opportunity. Yeah, my shit's everywhere. I put my underwear on that was in a paper sack this morning, but I don't care. I'm so happy. So I am grateful for this home that I have and the ability to build it. So that's a great question.
Awesome, man. I'm grateful for you and the leadership you gave us with EOS. And you're a part of the nudge and challenge like Harlan and others that said, become an implementer. And now my second question is, and we don't have to answer it now, but I think it's good for everybody that's watching is, and I read this article years ago, and it's, would you choose Jimmy Buffett or Warren Buffett's life if you had a choice of one? And so I think that's a good place to leave it, because leaving people with a question that thinks, whose life would I rather be? The Oracle of Omaha that still drives a Buick and lives in a house that he's always lived in, or Jimmy Buffett who traveled the world and sang
Well, I'm
about
going to
beaches?
answer because I'm not going to let this linger, but I would absolutely choose Jimmy Buffett because I wouldn't like to have gone out the way he did, but I do admire his creativity. I mean, Warren Buffett equally is creative, just on the other end of the spectrum. But I would absolutely say Jimmy Buffett. I love to fish. I love to be outside. I wish I could walk around in flip flops and play guitar. And but I want hold on, don't leave. Hold on, look. You know what I'm going to get? Do you know what I picked up?
What? Yes, great book.
Do you know who gave me this book?
I'm not sure. That would be me.
That would be you. 5/19/23. I read it all the time. I highlight, I share, and then I've also added this to it, the Daily Stoic. Do you know this one?
I don't, but if you wanted to return the favor, send one.
I might return the favor. I might have to, I'm going to, but I want you to know, I take it seriously, and I really appreciate it and cherish my friendship with you. So thank you so much for your time, sir, and thanks for joining us on the Scalability Code.
Peace, my brother.
Talk to you, friend.
Thank you for listening to the Scalability Code. If you made it this far, please follow the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get out of the show together. We'll see you next time on the Scalability Code.